Here we are at Tavistock Square. I'm here on behalf of the Canary. We're going to be filming today the Our NHS March, organised by People's Assembly and Health Campaigns Together. We're going to be looking around, interviewing some people, trying to grab some politicians, asking those difficult questions that I know you, the viewers, want asking. So, let's see how we get on. Let's go. Look who it is. It's only Jackie Berry, nurse extraordinaire and NHS campaigner extraordinaire as well. Tell us about sustainability and transformation plans briefly, because this is a big thing in the NHS at the minute. Tories dividing it up across the country into 44 areas. What's the deal with that? What's going on with STPs?
Basically, they involve breaking up England into 44 footprints where services will be integrated together, but actually the STPs are being used as a mechanism to implement £22 billion worth of cuts. They will also have the power to sell off assets from the health service, and by assets I mean things like land, buildings and services. I
think the thing is as well, I mean, if you look at the likes of Richard Branson, he's going to love this, isn't he? Richard Branson's going to love it. Only the other week it was announced, £700 million contract he got with the NHS. This is kind of his game, if you like. He could literally snap up whole areas of the NHS.
Yeah, I mean, he's been doing that for a little while, but what the SGPs allow the likes of Richard Branson and other sort of privateers to do is to buy it up in nice 44 footprint-sized areas, and that's the reason actually that we're assembling here today at Tavistock Square, because not a lot of people realise, but this is actually the headquarters of Virgin Healthcare in the UK.
Now you know. Jackie, thank you very much. Enjoy the march. We'll catch up with you later.
See you soon.
And look who I've grabbed. It is only the wonderful Dr. Philip Hammond. Hello.
Hi there, how you doing?
I'm very good, thank you very much. So you're here on the march today. NHS, one of the biggest issues in the country at the moment. If you could speak to Jeremy Hunt, would you have a message for him?
Yeah, the message, Jeremy Hunt, I go around the country on tour, and every audience I speak to, willingly, in fact they want to put more money into the health service, provided it's spent on frontline care that's proven to work. It's not wasted on privatisation or management consultancy or outsourcing. And it's really interesting they're not giving us that opportunity. It's if the Conservatives view a bit like the American right, they view it as a poor service for poor people, and everyone who can afford it should take out private health insurance. I think that's what their agenda is.
If we didn't have the NHS, how do you think it would affect us as a society in this country?
I don't think, actually. I wouldn't say it's just health services, it's all public services, so we're not putting enough into education or prison services or policing. But what's interesting is the evidence is if you invest in healthcare and education, it's good for the economy. There's nonsense that the NHS is a drain on the economy. There's really good evidence if you invest in it. And all we're asking for is to fund it at the equivalent level of other civilised countries. Most countries put 10 to 12% of their GDP. We put 8%, and by 2020 we're going down to 6.8%. The NHS isn't overspent, it's underfunded by 20%. Very easy chart. The NHS isn't overspent, underfunded by 20%. Politicians need to read that. We bailed out the bank in 2008 to the tune of 8 times the health and social care budget, and the world didn't end. There's absolutely no reason why we can't put a little bit more into the NHS. And people want it as well. To not do so would be madness.
We bailed out the banks. You heard it there, and spot on in my opinion. Thank you very much for your time.
Who's NHS? Who's NHS?
Right, I'm now here with two lovely people. We have Steve, leader of Hammersmith and Fulham Council, and we have Meryl from Save Our Hospitals campaign. Okay, so Hammersmith and Fulham was the first council in the country to reject a sustainability and transformation plan. Steve, how did that go down? How did it work out?
Well, along with Ealing Council, who rejected it exactly the same time as us, we just thought it was a document that had contained in it the cut of from 8 hospitals to 5, and SDPs all around the country have got similar things where they are putting forward the Tory government's cuts to the NHS in these documents. We don't think that's in any way sustainable, and we are fighting against it very, very clearly in Hammersmith and Fulham, along with Ealing Council.
So would you urge other councils to follow your lead and do the same about the STPs?
I would urge every other council to recognise that STPs come with a catch, and part of that catch is a Tory government's plan to reduce spending on the NHS and to bring about cuts. And I would ask them to, if that's in any STP document, then it just can't be signed.
Okay, Meryl, Save Our Hospitals campaign, how is that going?
Well, we've been going for nearly 5 years now because Hammersmith and Fulham and North West London generally was a pilot for the STPs. It failed, so of course the government went ahead and instituted it across the whole country. How are we going? Well, we overturned a Tory council, in fact Cameron's flagship council in the last London local elections. Our slogan, because we're not party political, was vote for the NHS. People did, and we got a Labour council. And I have to say, they have remained consistent in fighting for the NHS and for our local hospitals.
That's good to hear from a Labour council. Excellent stuff.
And from someone who isn't a Labour Party member.
I'll keep you two apart for the time being then. Guys, thank you very much for your time. Enjoy the march.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And look who I've just bumped into now. It is only my main man, Potent Whisper, also known as Georgie. He's got a very special performance for us today, so I'm going to hand straight over to him.
Well, it's like Great Britain. It's quite a big statement to call the country great. Like, to actually have the word great in the country's name. And over the past few years, especially of late, many of us are questioning what makes this country great. I guess we've got a strong economy. Tell that to the working class. We've got democracy, though none of us wanted to bomb Iraq. We've got honest policies, while families are left to starve. We've got the monarchy. Come on, you have to laugh. We were a quiet nation with social stability. We had free education before the new tuition fees. We did things efficiently, we ran self-sufficiently, we had a strong pound and a proud wealth of industries. We had British Steel, British Rail, British Gas, Royal Mail, a whole coal industry before they aborted that. We had social welfare before George snorted that. We were multicultural before we had the Brexit vote. Housing was affordable before we saw the rents explode. We had social housing before the Tories smashed it down. We had human rights and stuff, but they're all being retracted now. So I'm sure you'll appreciate, especially of late, many of us are questioning what makes this country great. But despite any divisions or difference of opinions, we'll all agree that Britain has a great health system. And that's what we're here to fight for today. The Tories are disposable. Let's look after everybody. Your love.
Tavistock Square to Parliament Square. Here we go. We're at the front of the march today. I've just had a great interview with my man, Potent Whisper. So let's see what happens. As we're walking along, we're going to grab some people, see why they're here, where they've come from, what organisations they're with. Let's see what happens. Look who I just found. It's only Carol from Big Brother supporting the NHS march. Hi, Carol.
Hiya, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you very much.
I'm glad you guys are here, by the way, because I think we need as much coverage as possible. I'm not sure that the BBC will be covering it, so every other network and opportunity we get to show how many people have come out to support the NHS. It's something that everyone fought for after the war, and it's not something we're going to give up easily. It's not something we want privatised and broken up and sold off. So we will be fighting to the bitter end, Theresa May and Mr Hunt. It's our service, not yours, and we will fight for it, we will keep it, and you will be defeated.
Carol, great stuff. Thank you so much for joining us. Right, guys, okay, I don't know how we're going to do this. I'm going to try. We're going to try and get in through the barricade and speak to Len McCluskey, leader of Unite the Union. I think it's coming up now. I'm not sure how it's going to work, but we're going to try our best. So let's go, let's go. Okay, I'm right here at the front of the march, only with Len McCluskey, leader of Unite the Union. Yes, we've managed to get in here. I don't think we're allowed, but we're here anyway. So we're going to have a few words with Len. Okay, good afternoon, Len.
Hello, great to be here. What a fantastic turnout. People come from all over the nation to send a clear message that this is our NHS and we're going to fight for it. We're going to fight to make certain that the private healthcare vultures stay out of our NHS. Belongs to us, the people, and we're not allowing the profit-hungry vultures to take it away from us. That's why we're here giving that message to our government, and we'll continue to come out on the streets until we secure a government that protects one of the greatest things that our parents and our grandparents fought to give us.
Len, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Nice to speak to you.
I need you to get out of the square now.
Fine, thank you. Okay, so why are we all here today? What is this actually about? Well, in essence, this is about the Tories' destruction of the NHS, but let's make this very, very clear. This isn't something new. This started in the 1980s with the likes of Oliver Letwin, prominent Conservative MP, writing a paper back then talking about privatisation of the health service. It started there and it continued ever since. You only have to look at the new Labour government under Tony Blair and their private finance initiative scheme, which is now seeing hospitals in billions of pounds worth of debt that they're having to service, and they are servicing it at the expense of patients. It then continued in 2012 with the Health and Social Care Act, which is basically a top-down reorganisation of the NHS, taking power away from doctors and nurses and putting it into the hands of CCGs, who are then dishing out private contracts to companies like Richard Branson's Virgin Care, and essentially it's being sold off underneath our noses. This is only going to get worse. We now have sustainability and transformation plans, STPs, which are 44 areas around the country, which are being broken up, packaged together and prepped for, again, privatisation. And so this is what this march is about. It is making people's voices heard and making it clear that people want a public, that is public, health service, not private, public. People are here today and showing their concern and their anger about the privatisation of the health service. I'm going to go and find some more people to talk to, so we'll catch up with you in a bit. And I'm very pleased to be here at the end of the march, joined by the legendary John McDonnell, Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer. John, thank you very much for joining us.
It's a huge march, doesn't it? It just, I tell you, it's inspirational, the numbers that are on this march today, but it just shows you how strong the feeling is about the NHS and what's going on at the moment in terms of cuts and privatisation. I've been meeting people that have been campaigning all over the country, right the way across the country, individual Save the NHS campaigns as well as trade unions. So it's been inspirational today, it really has.
It's one of the most pivotal issues at the moment. A Sky survey found that 59% of the public think the Tories are to blame for the crisis in the NHS. Do you think it's time that every party, including the Conservatives, because you have the likes of Sarah Wollaston, who are very vocal about what the government is doing, do you think it's time for that consensus?
The budget is this week. The Tories cut £4.5 billion off social care. That's put the NHS into crisis as well. We know the funding gap on the NHS and social care. The independent estimate is anything between 8 and 12 billion. If the Conservatives come forward with that sort of money this week, we'll support them. So we'll have a cross-party consensus. I don't think they will. I think they've got another agenda, and that's one of cuts and privatisation. And if you look at what's happening in social care, 1 million people not receiving the care that they should do. Again, of course we want cross-party consensus if we can get it, but the reality is this government has cut back on some of the most essential services people depend upon. That's unacceptable.
Absolutely so. John, thank you very much for your time. I know you're a busy man, so thank you, much appreciated. Alex, thank you for joining us.
Hi Steve, how you doing?
I'm very good, thank you very much. Okay, so media representation of the NHS. Do you think our mainstream press can be doing more to raise awareness of the fact that the Tories are literally destroying the health service? Do you think they can be doing more?
Absolutely, and we saw it back in 2012. I know this is a few years ago now, but when the Tories brought in the Health and Social Care Bill, which has really disorganised the NHS. It's one of the root causes of all the problems that are happening now. We saw the BBC, for example, but all the press, just not covering it in any detail whatsoever. The only time they did cover it was when it became a kind of political insider-ish Westminster story, but there was no attention to detail about what this massive change in the law was going to do to our health service. And now we're seeing the effects, and it's as if, it's not their problem.
What can Labour do?
Well, Labour needs to take a strong stand against privatisation in the NHS, because it's all very well, Labour's good at saying we need more money for the NHS, it always says that, and that's fine, and that resonates with people. But it's not just about that, it's also about the way that the structures of the NHS are being changed to allow private companies to come in, make profits out of people being ill, which is what they're doing, and in the process break up the NHS and really take away from us one of the most precious things that people as British people have in this country. And so I think a much stronger line from Labour on NHS privatisation, on what needs to be done to bring the NHS back into full public ownership and public provision needs to come from the Labour Party. There's a bill called the NHS Reinstatement Bill, which the Labour Party could get behind, and that would be really helpful for trying to take this forward in Parliament as well.
Excellent. Alex, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be joined by campaigner, legend and a personal friend of mine, hence the interview, Lizzie Fletcher. Lizzie, thank you for joining us.
Hello, thank you.
How have you found it so far today? How's it going?
It's full on, as usual. I sometimes wish that I wasn't leading it so that I could see how many actual people are here, but we've got so many helicopters overhead that I figure there's a larger amount today than we've seen in many years, perhaps since the poll tax riots. Everybody's so angry at the NHS cuts, and that we're letting Hunt with a C get away with all this crap. It's not right. It's definitely not right.
Absolutely not. Lizzie, I know you're busy, so I'll let you go back. Thank you, darling, for joining us.
Bye-bye.
And look who it is. I'm only joined by Jolyon Rubinstein, comedian extraordinaire. Jolyon, thank you for joining us.
Thanks. It's nice to be here.
How are you finding it so far today?
Yeah, I think it's a testament to the severity of the situation that it looks like there's over 200,000 people here. The NHS is the second biggest employer in the world after the Chinese government. And there are facts about that people don't realise. For instance, even if we had the best, most expensive insurance that money could buy, similar to the American model, which may happen if, Theresa May gets her way and makes a trade deal with Donald Trump, the NHS can actually make deals with pharmaceutical companies to bring down the price of drugs because they're buying in such large quantities. So for instance, a friend of mine's mum who's got cancer, she's actually being treated by one of the top end drugs, which actually only came out of clinical trials recently, but that's only because the NHS were able to actually take the price down. And if you were with a private insurance company paying a huge premium in the States, you just wouldn't give that care. And I think these are the kind of facts we need to be talking about to people. We need to make people understand that what's really at risk is the quality of their treatment later on.
Absolutely. One final thing, if you had a message for Jeremy Hunt, what would it be?
Resign.
There we go, straight from the horse's mouth. Jolyon, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm here with Yanis Gutsayanis, a frontline junior doctor who is very vocal about what's happening to the NHS. You can catch him on loads of films. He's all over Facebook. Yanis, thank you for joining us. On the front line, how is it at the moment? How is the NHS coping?
It's tough. The NHS basically over the last 5 years has been starved of funds by this government on purpose, willfully. And we're feeling it at the front line. We're feeling it in terms of staff shortages. We're feeling it in terms of actually patient care is being impacted now. We junior doctors, many of my colleagues, tens of thousands around the country, we went on strike last year specifically because of this issue as well as some other issues. And we are making it very clear to this government that we're very concerned about what's happening. We don't think that they're stewarding the NHS appropriately. We need bigger funds. We need to find the money to fund the NHS, because if we don't fund the NHS, what's the point of all this?
And do you think, in your experience, patients are aware of what's going on? Do you think patients understand how critical the situation is?
I think patients, doctors, other staff, the wider public sector, I think the public in Britain are coming to understand. We're seeing that here today. At least 200,000 people have marched today in defence of a single issue, the NHS. I really think the public are waking up to this huge issue. Also, new research, again, coming out now through academia over the last few weeks. We're seeing an increase in mortality in this country. We're seeing an increased death rate specifically as a result of cuts to the NHS. That's utterly tragic, and I think that's the reason so many people are here today.
View from the front line. Yanis, thank you for your time. Much appreciated. Thank you. Okay, so Corbyn has literally just finished his speech on stage. We're going to try and get an interview for the Canary when he comes out. He's now coming out. Jeremy, do you have 2 minutes for the Canary? Steve from the Canary.
You just got to keep moving. Good luck and thanks for what you do. And this is a very important day today. We've shown just how much support there is for the principles behind the NHS. It's crucial for the civilisation of all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I've been on plenty of marches before, however this has to be one of the largest turnouts I've seen. There was real passion today, and I think it's because it is the health service. The challenge, I personally think, is that marches can only do so much. When everyone's gone home, once they get back to their day-to-day lives, once reality kicks back in, if you like, how are we going to keep that energy going? That is the most crucial thing. Marches only do so much. Firstly, we need people to unite. There's the Green Party, there's the Labour Party, there's the Liberal Democrats, there's the SNP. They all seem to be working at odds, if you like, with each other over the health service at the minute. It's not good enough. They have to now unite and come together to fight the Tories on what they are doing to the NHS. I want to thank everyone today for coming out. It was great. I really enjoyed myself. Bit of a first for me, filming a Canary documentary. However, it was really good, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you get a lot from it. Thank you.